of entertainment, current events, and Hollywood. Don't miss Creator to Creators, hosted by the filmmaker Meosha, known for the Shudder hit documentary Horror Noir and the acclaimed film Anatomy of an Anti-Hero, Redemption. This show features interviews with filmmakers and creatives from around the globe. Join the fun with guest celebrities and gain valuable insights. Subscribe now and follow Creator to Creators.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Creators to Creators today. Today we have a special guest.
Jaron Lockridge.
Welcome.
Hey, thank you. I'm glad to be here today.
Awesome. I'm glad that you're here. I read your bio. I absolutely love it. I love it when someone takes control of their career and just, does it themselves instead of waiting
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
phone, right?
yeah,
Um, So I love going back to the beginning. I always say the beginning charts our trajectory in life, our little habits we pick up along the way, follow us into our adulthood. Tell me a little bit about your childhood. What was that like? And kind of how did you find your way into film?
man, my childhood was uneventful. I always like to say I'm not one of those that have this long, traumatic childhood that I can write a book about. I grew up with great parents. We were poor, but even though we were poor, they didn't make us feel like it. We felt like we had the world. I had a great father who's now passed, great mother, and in high school is when I kind of found that I had this talent to write. I've always grew up in I've always been a part of a creative family where nearly everybody in my family could sing, but when I found out that I could write was by accident. My sophomore year in high school, I needed a class and decided to take this theater arts class. And just fell in love with the arts in that class and even wrote a stage play that year. I never wrote before, wrote an entire stage play that they continued to even use for the spring play after I left high school. So I've always had that itch for writing that ended up just following me into adulthood to where I made my first short film literally just by myself, me and a couple coworkers around 2010, and started my company, Misguided Perceptions Media Group, my first company in 2016, and just made an array of feature films and series, all under this mantra of calling myself the guerrilla filmer because I would do it with just a minimal crew and just rebel pretty much against all the rules and just get out there and get my work done. So that's pretty much my story. Just always been interested in the arts and making films and just feel like that's why I'm on this earth.
Absolutely. And I love that. I love that. I love that. I so understand what that feels like to just, start doing everything yourself, I completely understand. It's so funny. I kind of like that way better versus get, doing it yourself because when you do get thrown into the big leagues, it's like you know how to do everybody's job,
Yeah, yeah,
which I
yeah,
think is so cool.
yeah,
Um, was
yeah.
there any specific moments, I think, when you realized like success was you realized success and I think like and purpose um were no longer the same thing.
Yeah, well, I started like making my films, just self-financing and going that route. So like I would say like the first 8 years of my company was pretty rough, like I was always in the red. Even though like my budgets were small, it got to a point to where like, man, I can't keep, putting all this money in making these movies myself. And it's just something, at one project, it just turned around everything. And I started to make, a good profit on my projects and like project after project. I just started to break that code. Um, and it just got to a point here, this last year where, I kind of transitioned to more faith-based work. I just kind of, felt this strong conviction that that's where I was supposed to go and lend my talents. But yeah, like before then, like I was almost, I would say, at the most successful in my career. So making that shift felt like a risk, but I mean nothing feels like a risk when you feel like you found your true purpose to do what you're doing. So yeah, like right now, I kind of rebranded my company to Cinema Ministry Productions, just making more faith-centric
I love that.
works, and producing a show, an 8 episode series, House for the Broken, now that we're in the process of releasing. So yeah, it's just been a lot of discovering, trying to figure out, what works, and finding that purpose within the work, which I feel like I'm on the right trail now.
And I love that. And I think that's wonderful that you said you found your purpose. I think a lot of people go throughout life and they don't know their purpose. They don't know what that is. They don't know their voice. And I think that's a big part of, knowing your calling. It's like now you have more of a clear direction of what you're here to do. And, because yeah, I mean, yeah, you can make movies all day, but then it's like once you made all the movies, like some people just feel empty, and don't feel the fulfillment of using your God-given talents. I was
Right.
wondering, like, what did you have to die to creatively to make that transition into faith-based, do you think?
It just, when you make a transition like that, I just wanted it to be sincere. I wanted to make sure that everything was for the right reasons. I wasn't doing it just to do it. Because like I said, I was at the precipice of my career.
Right.
I mean, I'm making all the money I can make for a person who's doing it the way I'm doing it at the moment.
Hmm.
So for me to make a pivot like that, it had to feel sincere.
Yeah.
And like I was at a special part in my life, to where God was confirming some things for me, was kind of leading me into this direction. So that's one reason why I felt so confident into making that transition toward more faith-based work. And I also see a need for it, because
Mhm.
if for the longest, faith-based work has been, I mean, for lack of better words, trash. I mean, you
It's
just
true.
I
I'm
mean,
glad you said it.
yeah,
Okay.
it's been terrible. So like, I'm just, I'm the type of person, like a lot of my stories that connect with people is real authentic human stories. And I'm also a police officer, so I see people's lives firsthand, um, that most writers aren't fortunate to see, where I'm able to attach to certain situations and speak realism into it because I've experienced them firsthand, like either as a witness or dealing with them myself. So I think a lot of people attach to my stories because I'm able to put a voice that's authentic to a lot of things. One thing that I get a lot of feedback about is like, man, that just felt so real. I related to that so much. So I wanted to bring that to this realm of faith-based filmmaking where, even when I made the announcement that I was rebranding, I was like, man, I'm gonna kind of push the boundaries, like I'm not gonna be crude or nothing just for the sake of it. But
Right.
you might even see some R-rated faith-based films. Like, that's crazy. You never thought of that. But you know, even if you look in the Bible, like it's some hard, harsh stories in there. So like I'm not going out of bounds with that, but like I want to be true to the nature, true to the purpose behind the material, but also show a real authentic um nature behind the films that I'm producing, to where it feels so true, so real, but doesn't seem like you're just doing this for the sake of doing it. Like it's a purpose, it's a point behind what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm just kind of pushing the boundaries to put a truer voice that people can relate to show you that life is not always Disney and cheesy like a lot of the faith-based films that we're used to. Just kind of show that human struggle, that human trial, that human suffering that most people deal with from day to day.
I love that. I love that. Wow. And first of all, thank you for your service being a police officer. That's amazing.
No,
Um,
thank
Absolutely. I think a lot of filmmakers and just creatives in general, they're always chasing that next, or they feel like they feel the need of like, oh, I gotta do better. I gotta go. If I don't get the pinnacle of this, like, okay, like society says, well, get an Oscar. That's what solidifies you as whatever. So everyone's always chasing this thing,
you.
of like, if I get that, then that means that I
Yeah,
am successful. And
yeah,
it's not true, right?
yeah,
We buy into it because of society and people that we watch. So I blame social media. I blame the internet, honestly, for all the hype these days, and it's just not real.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
and I feel like people think that's how they make an impact, right? If they get to that level, but you've done it in spades.
Yeah. One thing that kind of early on I was so, with film festivals and stuff, I was so wanting to be awarded. Um and I would constantly, get, disappointed and disappointed after getting, beaten or whatever for these awards. And what I found out quick and what I'm so grateful for going through those experiences, like a lot of these awards are not genuine. I even realized that for even Oscars themselves, that you have to campaign just to get on the ballot. Like it's not a group of people going out searching for films to see who to award. You have to campaign just to even get. So that to me is so disingenuous. So
Hmm.
being awarded and getting to a place to where I'm this awarded filmmaker and stuff is so at the bottom of my list of wants and priorities. I'm just more focused on when I get those emails, and I remember one of my past projects, this guy from New York. I don't know how this guy got my number. Maybe he Googled on the internet or something. I don't know. I'm still kind of curious how he got my phone number, but he called me, and I mean, we talked for like 45 minutes about how that project affected him. And to
Mm.
me, stuff like that is greater than any award, knowing that your work affected somebody or impacted somebody in that way. So that in a way, like I don't care about, any of that, even though I know a lot of filmmakers do and they'll drive themselves into the ground and their worth is based on awards. Mine is based on the impact that my work does because I know that my work was effective. I know that it wasn't just surface level, entertainment. I know that it, as intended, it affected the viewer that it was meant to affect. So more than anything, that's what I look forward to.
I love that. I'm curious, how do you balance artistic honesty with spiritual responsibility when telling difficult stories, involving addiction, abuse, and broken families?
Um, yeah, that's what I'm still kind of on the verge of learning. I mean, because I want to, you don't want to preach and knock people over the head preaching, and you also want it to feel real. So
Yeah.
it's a very hard balance there. So that's something like with House for the Broken that was very trying for me because I had to cut a lot of stuff because I was like, ah man, it's too preachy here, it's too
Mm.
this. But at the same time, you have a message that you're trying to get across that you also want to be effective with as well. So that's the constant tug of war as a writer, that you kind of, when I wrote the script, I just let it go. And in the
Hmm.
editing room, you kind of shape it to what you need it to be. So that was a constant thing, especially in the editing room, trying to get these scenes to be, to get the message across without doing too much, and just trying to toe that fine line, with showing these stories because you have a lot of um, real stories in this show. We had like a private screening a couple weeks ago, and a lot of people that was the mention that they made about it. It was like, man, I don't think we've ever seen these type of stories in a in a faith-based work. I even have one of the characters has a past um on the show in sex work, and
Hmm.
seeing the detail, even though it's nothing crude, it's still a PG
Yeah.
show, but seeing the detail, and it was enlightening for a lot of people that think that happens a different way still.
Yeah.
You know, it was very enlightening. You know, I kept getting compliments about how real the show felt. So I know I'm on the right track with it. But yeah, just trying to find that balance, you know, with faith-based work of getting the gospel in there without being preachy, you know, getting the message without being preachy. Yeah, that's a challenge that I'm still kind of currently working out. But yeah, once I get out there and get some of this feedback, I know how to continue to do this for future projects. Yeah.
No, and I think that's so brave of you because I think a lot of people don't touch that or even like want to talk about those like those real things that happen in the church, that happen
Yeah.
in Christianity. A lot of people are dealing with a lot of things that they're totally afraid of talking about because
Yeah.
of being ex ostracized from church
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
you know, or seen a different way. And it's like, no, we all are broken and you're supposed to come to God with your faults and
Yeah.
all your
Yeah.
difficulties and uncomfortabilities. But kudos
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
you. A lot of people don't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something that I'm passionate about is just showing, you know, the brokenness side. Like it's a lot of, uh, you know, stuff like it's a lot of people that just feels, you know, certain way where my deep dive into the scriptures kind of opened my own eyes with a lot of stuff where I
Mm,
was like, man, this is, you know, I see this here, but
mm,
you know, sometimes when I go to this certain church or something, this is so you see it even speaks in there where, you know, being, you know, knowing the scriptures for yourself help you to dodge false teachers and people
yeah.
wolves in sheep clothing. So I kind of very passionate about getting that truth out, like showing. We have a episode in there where it's barbershop talk where the guys are just talking about tithes and offering and that you know that common argument about this and that, and you hear real talk in there, and you're able to spit facts in between that. So there's something that I'm very passionate about. It's just putting out some truth, to kind of you know some common thinking that's out there, kind of dispel that or put some truth to that and also open up for dialogue like
Yes.
you know by
Yes.
us being you know humans we're living in a fallen world
Hmm.
and you know sometimes all humans don't have the best intentions behind things so you kind of
Hmm.
want to show that and put a light to that and put a light to like how can you follow something or be a part of something and you don't know the rule book. Like you don't go to work
Right.
and just start working without knowing the policy. So if you don't know the
Right.
rule book, you know, people can pull wool over your eyes in any way because they know that you're not biblically literate or whatever. And they can see that instantly just off the, you know, the way that, you know, you respond to certain things and this and that. So a lot of this show is just pulling off, you know, pulling the wool off of your eyes and just highlighting a lot of stuff. I'm just so eager to see the response to it. Um,
Yeah, me too.
and just yeah, to see the feedback to it, it's gonna be something that's unique to the space.
Yeah, I mean, I listen, I can't imagine. I actually did a project based off kind of bit of my life. I had some stuff that came out about my family that, you know, that was involving my father and you know, mind-blowing things that you're like, wow, you know, you taught so, you're taught this way for so
Yeah,
long, and then you hear things later, and you're like, oh my God, and it's confirmed. But then it's like, okay, now I want to talk about it. But a lot of people shut the doors. I've noticed a lot of Christian, and that's not every Christian church, but a lot of
Mhm.
people in the faith are very,
Mhm.
they're not open. They're not really as receptive. And I'm curious,
Yeah.
have you had as far as like any Christian people or people in the faith base say kind of try to detour you from making these kind of projects?
Not yet. It probably
That's
will
great.
after it comes out. Hey, to be determined. But hey,
Okay.
you know, like I'm looking. You know, one thing about it when you know people grow up with a certain set of beliefs. Like I've even noticed on some you know stuff here recently. Like you can literally tell them, look, this is what Scripture says, and they will
Hmm.
see it and still stick to their same beliefs. Like it's just it's it's sad in a way. But it's one thing like once I really got to, you know, when I was at my faith crisis, like is God real or is he not? And I went into this
Hmm.
deep dive myself to kind
Hmm.
of build up my own foundation of faith where I saw these things is, and even the Bible says, it'll come to a point to where people just will not tolerate the truth. Like it that's what make that book so supernatural to me, because it's
Yeah.
speaking to so much stuff that's going on right now, that it foretold thousands of years ago. So
Yeah.
like you see like people are just, they idolize certain pastors and stuff. They can't say any wrong. They can get up there and say the wildest stuff, but to them they don't say anything wrong. So like coming out with a show like this that's pushing back against that. Like I said,
Hmm.
I'm not doing it out of spite. I'm doing it everything based on scripture. Like I gave my scripts to a few trusted folks to like, hey,
Hmm.
examine this, make sure nothing's out of place. I don't want anything that I'm saying to be, against scripture, nothing that I'm saying to be wild and just for the sake of it. So I'm doing things the right way, and I'm not pushing back just for the sake of it. It's all for the sake of clarity, all for the sake of truth, and for the
Yeah.
sake of realism. So yeah, I'm probably sure I'm gonna get a little pushback about some stuff. Kind of looking forward to seeing some of his feedback after the
I
show's
love
released.
it. I love
Yeah.
it. Was there a scene in House of the Broken that was um, emotionally difficult to you to write because it touched a wound in you that you haven't fully healed from?
Um, wouldn't say it was any particular scene
Hmm.
that's tough. But I will say there is a scene in here where the lead character, um he's dealing with a son,
Hmm.
um and the son is just kind of in its part of his life where he's just kind of rebelling, kind of doing his own thing. And in a way, I'm very familiar with that story, just been growing up being a father myself, trying to guide your children to the right way, and just those trials of fatherhood, parenthood, trying to stir your child to the right direction, but they kind of decide they want to go this way. So I would say his story is probably the most relatable
Hmm.
to me. But like a lot of these stories and a lot of these characters, like it's so much of me in the story. It's so much
Hmm.
of stuff that I've witnessed personally. Like that's just what makes it easy for me to write. Just experiences that I've witnessed firsthand, or stories that I know about, or just experiences that I've dealt with firsthand. I'm able to put it all out there on the table and just pull from certain ingredients and just make a story about it. So yeah, I'm intrigued with a lot of characters on here that even when I see them on screen, like I was like, man, that was authentic, that was good. So yeah, I wouldn't say is one that was just tough to watch, but I would say
Yeah.
more relatable is probably the lead character and his struggle in this show. Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, the title House of the Broken suggests that, brokenness isn't, the end of the story, but s- what does healing actually look like to you?
A lot of times healing is, just being able to confront whatever it is, whatever trauma, whatever past, whatever shame that you're dealing with, confront it, knowing that, we aren't perfect. Um, like I said, we're living in a fallen world where I've seen it all firsthand myself, so I know like nobody's perfect. Anybody
Hmm.
can fall from high to low at any
Yeah.
given time. So being able to face that and acknowledge it and deal with it that way, even if you have to reach out to somebody you trust, uh, therapy, like whatever it is to help you get through that, confronting that, just whatever to get through that and acknowledge it and externalize that so that you can heal from it is the path that you need to go. That's something that I explore on this show as well. I try to hit so many things that, especially in our community, that is
Yeah.
not talked about openly. But
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, just I would say just face it. Be able to acknowledge first what it is. And when you acknowledge it and put it out there and pull it out of that darkness and face it head on, that's the way to let it heal instead of just keeping it internal and never dealing with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Ah, gosh. I mean, you're preaching right now because there's, especially, I mean, you just said something that, oh my God, you said therapy or however, and I think that's a big, misconception in our community of like,
Yeah.
oh, well, just pray it away and let God do it and don't go to therapy. Like I heard that a lot growing up, and I
Yeah.
always wondered why was that a bad thing?
Yeah.
Or even in experience, but like why do so many Christians struggle with I don't know, shame or like, you know, eh, or that because they've been forgiven, right? It's like, why is that a bad thing?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's and that's one thing like that I had to realize myself like you have this shame whenever you have this shame like one thing about it was always put out there, it makes it seem like being a Christian, all this stuff just goes away. And that's one thing, like going into the scriptures myself, that kind of showed me like uh Jesus himself, he talks about suffering and being with you
Hmm.
through the suffering and you finding community through the suffering, finding like-minded people to help you, to talk through and stuff. It says it in there. So I don't know where this
Hmm.
perception come, pray and forget it. Like prayer of course helps, but you also need to go and be active with your prayer and seeking counsel and seeking somebody that you can talk these things through with, and acknowledging that you're not perfect, acknowledging that there will be suffering in some sense. Suffering may not be in like the extremes that your mind goes to. I mean, you could suffer through something small, like just a trial is a suffrage.
Yeah.
So like little things that can happen are going to happen in life that you becoming a Christian or whatever is not going to absolve. You're going to still go through life. We live in a fallen world.
Yeah.
That's just part of it every day. So yeah, it's something that I'm also trying to break. Just trying to break
Mhm.
this thinking that's been a part of so many hardships that's not necessarily true or scriptural. It's just we
Exactly.
I don't know where a lot of these beliefs come from. I'm pretty sure just from, man-made ideals and things like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's something that I'm just passionate about, is getting truth out there and showing like if you need to go and talk to a therapist, there's nothing wrong with that.
Hmm.
It's nothing wrong
Exactly.
with that. So yeah, that's something that I'm passionate about, that I felt pulled to when I rebranded my company and went to this space, is just to get out there and debunk a lot of these beliefs that aren't based in anything, you know, scriptural or whatever, to kind of put some truth out there and open some dialogue.
I love it. I love it. I have a fun question. And
Mhm.
there's no wrong answer, I promise.
Okay. Yeah.
The three levels of influence: money, power, and respect. If you could
Mhm.
choose only one of those things, which one would you choose and why?
That's a great question. Hmm. I would say hmm, power would be last because I've seen that story. Um, I would say probably money. Because uh I feel like I'm grounded enough to where money wouldn't change my ideals or do anything, where I feel like I could help a lot of people. I could do a lot of good uh with it.
Yeah.
Um the I feel like, the respect part of it in ways comes automatically. Uh but yeah, I would probably say, if I'm understanding your question right, money. I believe I can do a lot of good uh, with that in so many ways to where I can do a lot more affecting um, in that way than worrying about the other two. Yeah,
I love it. I love it. Great answer. Yeah, I love it. Great answer.
yeah, yeah.
Um, what do you hope non-Christians take away from House um, of the Broken?
I feel like anybody can watch the show and get something authentic. I feel like maybe some um even some, not stereotypes is the wrong word. Maybe some perceptions that you have of the faith, you can kind of see them from a more authentic end. Um, a lot of like even nowadays, with a lot of stuff that's going on, like I think of, by it being Pride Month at the time for one, how,
Hmm.
people are, how it seems like this clash between the faith community and the pride community, or like it's
Hmm.
always this vitriol. And like even in scripture, although scripture says what it says, it doesn't affirm it or anything. There's a way to do things. There's a way to do anything with love. Like even,
Yeah.
it doesn't just call that out. It calls out a lot of other things as well. And you deal with that with love, and care and respect. I mean, that's how it's commanded to deal with it. And you see a lot of things, even if it's with politics or whatever, where it's not done that way, and that's the incorrect way to do it. So you got a lot of people who have this perception of the church, when it should just be a perception of the humans. Like I made this analogy before. Like if I get up there and I just start playing Beethoven and I destroy the song, you're not gonna blame Beethoven. You're gonna blame the player. So a lot of times you have to look at stuff on a case by case basis. There's a lot of human biases behind a lot of stuff. There's a lot of personal biases done behind a lot of stuff, and it's all cloaked under the name of God, where God was probably not approving of anything or how it was done. So
Right.
that's one thing where with this show, I just kind of want to. I think somebody who's like, man, that's the craziest stuff ever. I think they could still get something out this show, to show that in the name House for the Broken, like this is a broken world with broken
Yeah.
people who still put their own ideologies on stuff. They can take something out of a book and still put their own spin on it. It's just so much behind that to where I feel somebody can see this and be like, okay, I kind of see the perspective he's saying here, and still get something valuable out the work, even if you're not a believer.
I love that. It's a great answer.
Yeah,
Last 5 minutes left on this interview. I really enjoyed this conversation, by the way.
yeah, yeah.
Um, if God asked you to to put filmmaking down tomorrow, would
Hmm.
you still feel fulfilled knowing you've answered the calling, or has filmmaking become, um, I guess, like an inseparable from your purpose?
Yeah, one thing, like I said, when I went through uh this faith crisis, I put it that way, where I had to really go and know him for myself.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, like if it's to the point to where after we finished House for the Broken, I would usually have um 3 or 4 scripts ready to go. Like I'm always writing. And I've just started like this past week or so, started back writing, and which is very unusual. I've just been so focused on, getting to know him, getting to know, scriptures, reading, just getting to know him more, to where I feel fulfilled more in
Mm.
that avenue uh than I was with filmmaking. So yeah, like if it got to a point to where I feel like he's leading me to another direction, yeah, I wouldn't have an issue
Wow.
you know, changing paths, as long as I feel that was the right choice. So yeah, like I feel like I was put on this earth to make films. Like I can
Yeah.
literally um like a lot of people look at the work and it's like, man, it's no way that you did all these jobs and this movie is this quality. Like I'm proud to be able to do that, and people think I had an entire crew. Like on House for the Broken, like I had a crew, but the out of the all the main positions, all I had was a sound guy. I still operated the
Mm,
camera, I directed,
hmm.
I did, most of the stuff. So I'm able to do that and keep the quality high. So like I know I have a God-given talent to make movies where a lot of people um probably aren't that fortunate to do so without needing to hire this and this and that. But yeah, like if I felt that he was moving me toward a different direction, yeah, it wouldn't be a second thought. I just, put it by the wayside at this point.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Where can people find you on social media to follow everything you got coming up?
Um, my personal social media is under JS Lockridge on Instagram and all of the Facebook, all of the places. My company where a lot of this work will be housed, the trailer for House for the Broken, the back and forth dialogue about the show, Cinema Ministry on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and also my website, cinemaministry.com, where you can sign up to a mailing list and stay tuned to future works and whatever we have coming out. So yeah, like anybody who's interested, hey, I invite you to come along for the journey and see what we have in store. If you're an actor and actress, you're interested in getting into some this type of work, hey, join the mailing list, look for casting calls. So yeah, that's mostly where I do a lot of my stuff is on the, Facebook, Instagram, space and YouTube and on my website.
Nice. Awesome. Well, this is a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for giving us, some dropping some gems, some wisdom for the show today. I really appreciate that. It was nice.
Definitely. I appreciate you for having me on.
Absolutely. And thank you all for listening. And always remember to live, love, laugh. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.